Have you ever felt desire, not within four walls, but beneath the endless sky? They say the ocean hides more secrets than we can ever imagine, and on certain nights, when the moon is high and the waves are restless, those secrets come alive. I've always believed that some of our truest moments don't happen where everyone can see, but in places where the world itself seems to lean closer, listening, daring us to surrender. Tonight, I want to take you there, to a shoreline where the sand glistens like silver dust, where the night air tastes like salt and mystery, to a place where you're not just a body walking on earth. You're a pulse, a spark, a living rhythm moving in time with the sea. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself barefoot on the edge of the ocean. Feel the cool grains slipping between your toes, the hiss of the tide creeping closer. The stars are scattered like fire across a black canvas, and above them, the moon commands the sky with its pale, magnetic glow. The wind doesn't just brush against your skin, it whispers, coaxing you closer to something you can't yet name. Have you ever wanted to lose yourself? To let go of all restraint? To allow the wild to claim you? Not in chaos, but in the kind of order only nature understands. The ocean eye is both mercy and danger, both calm and storm, both lover and destroyer. And that night, under its gaze, I realized it was also the perfect mirror for desire. You see, desire is not just heat between bodies. It's the shiver when silence grows too loud, the tremor when eyes meet in a darkness no one else can witness. It's the way your chest tightens, not from fear, but from a truth you've been too careful to name. That night, by the water, I found myself standing at the edge of something larger than me, something that asked me to step forward, to surrender, to let go of who I thought I was, and to become who I had always been beneath the surface. So if you've ever wondered what it feels like to be both fragile and infinite, both untamed and the shoreline stretched endlessly in both directions, a ribbon of silver under the watchful eye of the moon. The sand was cool beneath my feet, soft but grounding, as if it wanted to hold me in place and yet release me at the same time. Every wave that came ashore broke with a sigh, retreating only to gather strength and return again, louder, stronger, like a heartbeat growing impatient. The air was thick with salt and something else, something electric, as though the ocean carried not just water, but secrets. I could hear it in the way the waves hissed and crashed, in the rhythm that matched the rise and fall of my own chest. The night had a pulse, and somehow it was syncing with mine. I tilted my head back, letting the sky fill my eyes. Stars burned like tiny fires scattered without order, while the moon glowed with a steadiness that felt almost human. Like it knew I was watching, clouds drifted lazily past, but even their shadows couldn't dull the glow. The light wrapped around me, soft and sharp at once, painting the water in silver streaks that seemed to move just for me. The wind rose suddenly, carrying the chill of faraway storms, and it rushed across my skin as though it knew exactly where to linger. My hair tangled in its grip, strands whipping across my face before I pushed them away, only to let the breeze claim them again. There was no escape from it, and I didn't want one. Behind me, the world was still. The shore was deserted, the houses set too far back to hear the ocean's song. Out here, there were no walls, no lights, no voices, only me, the tide, and the silence between crashes. Silence so deep it seemed alive. And yet, the emptiness wasn't frightening, it was freeing. The isolation didn't press down, it lifted me up, peeled away the layers I wore during the day. Out here, under the moon and stars, I wasn't a name or a face or even a body. I was something simpler, something raw. The sea stretched beyond sight, and with every swell, every surge, I felt it pulling at me, not to drown me, but to remind me Remind me that life is larger than walls, than ceilings, than rules written in daylight. Here, on this shoreline, the world was infinite, and I was finally infinite with it. The longer I stood there, the more the night pressed into me. It wasn't heavy like a burden, but deep, like a presence that wanted to be felt. The ocean didn't simply exist. It called, it reached, it stirred something inside me that I had almost forgotten. At first, it was subtle, a quickening of my breath, a tension in my chest, as though anticipation had taken root without warning. But as I listened to the rhythm of the waves, that feeling grew, spreading from my chest to my fingertips, my skin alive to every whisper of the wind. The cool air brushing across me felt more than natural. It felt intentional, deliberate, like invisible hands coaxing me toward surrender. Every wave seemed to echo my pulse. Crash, inhale, retreat, exhale. The cycle was hypnotic, pulling me deeper into its cadence. My heartbeat was no longer my own. It belonged to the sea, to the night, to something wilder than I could ever hope to control. I closed my eyes, and that was when I felt it most. Stripped of sight, the world became touch and sound. The ground was steady, but I swayed as though the tide had reached inside me. The salt on my lips, the sting of the breeze against my cheeks, the faint tremble in my knees. It all combined into a single truth. I was alive, fully, unbearably alive. And yet, with that aliveness came hunger, not the hunger of the body alone, but of the soul, a yearning for closeness, for connection, for a release that only comes when you stop fighting and let yourself be carried. I wasn't looking for control. I was aching to lose it. In that moment, I realized how much of my life had been lived in restraint. In daylight, we are taught to be careful, to speak softly, to move within the lines drawn for us. But the ocean cared nothing for rules, and under its gaze, neither did I. The night was stripping me bare, not of clothing, but of fear. A strange calm wrapped around me, even as the intensity inside me built. It was a paradox, peace and fire, stillness and storm, all within the same heartbeat. My mind whispered that I should step back, but my body leaned forward, toward the water, toward the unknown. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. The night deepened, though the moon still burned like a watchful eye. The tide crept closer, each wave daring to lick at my ankles before slipping away with a hiss. It felt as if the ocean itself was playing with me, teasing, never giving all at once. I sensed movement beside me, not a sudden arrival, but a presence that had been there all along, just beyond awareness, waiting for me to notice. I turned, and there was someone, a figure, silhouetted by the glow of the moon, standing close enough that the air between us changed. I couldn't make out features, only shape, shadow, intention, and yet that was enough. The space between us tightened, though neither of us moved. My breath hitched, shallow and quick, while the waves seemed to hold their rhythm, pausing as though to listen. The silence wasn't empty. It was thick, humming, alive. Every second stretched longer, every heartbeat louder, until the night itself felt fragile beneath the weight of what was unspoken. I felt his gaze before I truly saw it. Steady, unrelenting, drawing me in. It was the kind of look that strips away defenses, that doesn't ask permission, but doesn't need to. I should have looked away, but instead I met it, and in that collision of eyes, the world collapsed. There was no shoreline, no horizon, no stars above us, only the invisible thread that tethered me to him, pulling tighter with every passing breath. The wind grew restless, whipping around us as though it too wanted to join the dance. My hair lashed against my cheeks, my pulse thundered, and still we didn't move. We didn't have to. The stillness was more dangerous than any motion could have been. When he stepped closer, just one pace, The air cracked like lightning. My body responded before thought could intervene. A shiver down my spine, a heat in my chest, a tremor in my knees. His hand brushed mine, light as the breeze, fleeting as a shadow, but that single touch sent a shock through me, igniting every nerve, making my skin ache for more. The distance that remained between us was no longer space, it was fire. Fire that refused to be ignored, fire that promised to consume. The ocean crashed louder, the moon glared brighter, and I knew we were standing on the edge of something that could not be undone. The night had stopped asking me to surrender. It was demanding it. It happened all at once, and yet it felt eternal. The space between us vanished, not with force, but with inevitability, like the tide claiming the shore. Again and again, unable to resist its own nature, the air around us seemed to break apart, filled with the sound of the waves pounding harder, faster, as though the ocean had been waiting for this moment as much as I had. The world tilted. My heart was no longer a steady beat. It was thunder, rolling in my chest, echoing across the shoreline. The wind howled, wrapping around us, like a storm unleashed. Every sense sharpened, the salt on my lips, the warmth of breath against my skin, the electric hum in the pit of my stomach. It was too much and not enough all at once. The moon loomed overhead, a witness with no mercy. Its glow poured across the water, across us, lighting every detail in silver fire. For a fleeting second, I felt exposed, seen not just by him, but by the world itself. And yet, the vulnerability didn't shame me. It freed me. There was no hiding in this moment, no masks, no careful restraint, only raw, uncontainable truth. The ocean roared, wave after wave, as if it were inside me, breaking, surging, pulling me under. But I didn't fight. I let it take me, let it carry me farther than I thought possible. The power of it coursed through me like lightning, shattering walls I hadn't realized I had built. My breath fractured, my body trembled, and for an instant I thought I might disappear entirely into the night. But instead of vanishing, I expanded. My edges blurred, my sense of self dissolved, until I was not just here on the sand, but everywhere, part of the wind, the sea, the stars above. The intensity was overwhelming, but instead of drowning, I was reborn. The climax wasn't just fire, it was a storm, wild and relentless, tearing through me until I was nothing but sensation, nothing but release. And when it finally crested, spilling over into silence, I realized the ocean had quieted too. The waves softened, the wind gentled, as though nature itself had spent its fury alongside me. For a moment, everything was still. The world, the night, my body, all held in suspension, trembling in the aftershock of what had been unleashed. And in that fragile quiet, I felt it, freedom. The storm inside me had passed, though its echo lingered in every breath I drew. I sank slowly onto the sand, my legs trembling, not from weakness, but from release. The grains clung to my skin, cool and grounding, a reminder that I was still here, still real, even as my spirit floated somewhere far beyond. The waves, once fierce and unrelenting, had softened into gentle whispers, curling against the shore like tired lovers, finally at rest. Their rhythm was steady again, slower, calmer, as if the ocean itself exhaled alongside me. Above, the moon had shifted, no longer blazing with intensity, but watching with quiet tenderness, like a guardian who had seen too much, yet judged nothing. The night air cooled the fire on my skin. Every gust of wind carried away fragments of heat, leaving behind a strange, sweet ache. My heartbeat, though slower now, still hummed with the memory of what had surged through me. It was as if the universe had written itself across my body, and now the ink glowed faintly in the dark. I lay back fully, staring at the expanse above me. The stars flickered, countless and eternal, and for the first time, I didn't feel small beneath them. I felt infinite, stretched out across time and space, stitched into the very fabric of the cosmos. My secret, though silent, belonged to more than just me. It belonged to the night, the ocean, the wild itself. There was no need for words, no need for explanation. What had happened could not be named, could not be caged by language. It was meant to be felt, carried quietly in the marrow of my bones, surfacing only in the still moments when the world seemed to pause. And in that stillness, I found peace, not the peace of absence, but the peace that comes after surrender. I had given myself to something larger, something untamed, and it had returned me whole, yet different, lighter, freer, alive in a way I had never known. The night was no longer demanding. It simply held me, cradled me, as though rewarding me for listening, for trusting, for stepping into its embrace. I closed my eyes, letting the last whispers of the ocean carry me somewhere soft, somewhere safe. And as the tide washed over the sand, I realized it wasn't just the waves retreating, it was me too, retreating into silence, into memory, into the secret I would carry forever. When I think back to that night, it wasn't just about what happened beneath the moon or beside the ocean. It was about what the wild revealed, the parts of myself I had hidden, the longings I had silenced, the truths I had been too afraid to face. Out there, with no walls and no eyes watching, I discovered something important. Desire is not something to fear, it is a teacher. We live much of our lives in restraint. We learn to hold back, to hide our impulses, to keep our hunger tucked away where no one can see it. And yet, in doing so, we forget that hunger is proof of life, the beating heart, the restless breath, the fire in our chest. These are not weaknesses. They are reminders that we are alive, that we are still capable of feeling deeply, of yearning for more. The ocean that night showed me that surrender is not about losing control. It is about trust, trusting the moment, trusting yourself, trusting that stepping into the unknown doesn't always mean danger. Sometimes it means freedom. Sometimes it means finding the very thing you've been searching for all along. And maybe that's what we need to remember, that the wildest places, the forest, the desert, the endless sea, aren't just landscapes. They are mirrors. They reflect our hidden selves back to us, raw and unfiltered. They remind us that we are not made to live only in boxes and boundaries. We are made to feel, to explore, to let our souls wander beyond what is safe. So, to you listening now, don't ignore the whispers within you. Don't silence the pulse that beats faster when you think of something forbidden, or the spark that lights when you step beyond the familiar. Those whispers are not your enemy. They are invitations to live more fully, to breathe more deeply, to discover parts of yourself that the daylight cannot reveal. Let the ocean remind you that waves always return, no matter how far they go. Let the stars remind you that light can still shine, even in endless darkness. And let desire remind you that you are alive, wild, fragile, infinite, because in the end, the wild doesn't take from us, it gives. It gives us the courage to be honest, the freedom to be unguarded, and the gift of knowing that sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones we never planned. And so, my night with the ocean ended not with noise, but with silence, a silence that wasn't empty, but full of whispers, memories, and truths that would linger far longer than the waves on the sand. I rose slowly, brushing the grains from my skin, and for a moment, I looked back at the water. It shimmered under the moonlight, endless, eternal, as if nothing had happened, and yet everything had changed. I knew the ocean would never tell my secret. That night belonged to me, to the tide, to the stars above who watched without judgment. But perhaps, in sharing it now, I am not giving it away. I am giving it meaning. Stories, after all, are how we make sense of what cannot be explained. They are how we connect the wild inside us with the world around us. As I walked away from the shore, I carried more than just the memory of desire. I carried the reminder that life is fragile, fleeting, and far too short to silence the parts of ourselves that long to be free. Out there, with the salt air filling my lungs and the waves echoing in my veins, I felt something that I want you to feel too: the freedom of letting go. Maybe for you, it won't be the ocean. Maybe it will be the hush of the forest at midnight, the firelight in the desert, the thin air at the top of a mountain, or even the quiet hum of a pool under the stars. Wherever it is, the wild is waiting, and it wants you to remember who you are when no one else is watching. So now I ask you, where would your desires take you? What place calls to you when the world falls silent? Is it water, wind, fire, or stone? Share your thoughts with me. Whisper your own stories into the comments, and perhaps your secret will become the next tale told beneath this Moonlit channel. Because this is not just my story, this is ours, the collective voice of every soul that has ever dared to feel more, want more, live more. The ocean gave me my secret, but tonight I give you an invitation, the invitation to listen, to feel, to surrender. This was my night in the wild. The question now is, when will you let the wild claim you?